All right. That was a beautiful prayer.
Thank you.
I was thinking while you were praying that you were talking about God's love and how, the message tonight is on. We're going to continue on looking on turning the from a lamb-like beast to an image of the first beast, right? And so it is really dealing with government and so forth, but really it's a message of love, because what God wants for us is beautiful, and what the devil wants for us is very ugly. So we're going to continue with the idea. I don't know how I worded this before, something to the effect of USA to image of the beast. So how do we turn into being a country that was modeled on Bible principles? How do we turn from that into being the image of the beast? Let's look again at Revelation chapter 13 and verse 11. Revelation 13 verse 11. Somebody have that for us?
Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon.
So he started out looking like a lamb, but eventually speaks like a dragon. And then when you look at verse 14, it says, "And he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast," which is the first beast, which is Rome, "saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live." That would be the Roman Catholic Church there. That had, you guys remember the deadly wound. Remember when that happened in 1798, and then it was healed in 1929. By a deal with Mussolini, which will play somewhat prominently in our discussion today, Mussolini. But the idea is that this lamb-like beast, which is the USA, we've studied that before, the second beast is the USA, eventually it would become an image to the first beast of the Catholic Church. It starts as a republic, but eventually it's going to turn into a dictatorship. And those are two very opposite things. They're supposed to be two extremes. And it goes from one to the other. And how do you get there? Well, we spent a good amount of time before looking through all the details of this and how the country was founded. We looked at all the Bible verses showing that the principles that America was founded on, not that it started perfect, we know that there was problems when the country first started, but the basic principles that it was founded upon were principles found in the Bible, and it was very much it was almost an image or a replica in many ways to the model that God set up for Israel. It had many similarities to Israel. It followed the pattern of a country that was supposed to be like Israel.
I hope that's not us.
I'll go check.
Somebody loud.
I
I don't know what ours
that's me.
sounds like. Where's my sounds close though.
Notice how that just all suddenly
Yeah,
all
yeah, it
became
was-
silent.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we're not going to go into all the Bible verses like we did before on the U.S. being based on Bible principles. We're not going to go into all that tonight. Instead, we're going to look at some basic principles behind how you go from here to here, and we're going to quote Catholic sources tonight to show you what they think about how a government should function, and that will tell you what direction we're headed to in the U.S. Because we know that this is going to turn into this. And so by quoting the Catholic Church and what they think a government should look like, we see where we're going, right? Unfortunately. Does that make sense? Okay. Was it your car? Everything okay?
Yeah, my part.
Oh,
It's okay.
maybe somebody drove too close to this one. Loud music or something. Okay. So basic principles. Basically what we're going to look at tonight is how do you change a republic into a dictatorship? One of the basic principles here is control versus independence. Maybe I should have put those the other way around so you don't get confused, but I'll just erase this part. Let's start over. Control versus independence. So obviously, the dictatorship, you want as much control as possible. In a republic, you want independence. We give you a few kind of basic principles on this, and as you see the big picture, this kind of big picture stuff, all the little details will make more sense, and you'll be able to see as the country shifts toward the image of the beast where it's actually happening. So in a dictatorship, you're going to have an abundance of laws. Because a dictator wants to control every aspect of your life, right?
That's right.
Every little detail is going to get controlled. That's what's going to happen in a dictatorship. And partly because Satan himself is a dictator. Remember in Isaiah 14, it says he wants to sit on the mount of the congregation and be the one giving out the laws, right? And it's not because God is in control so that he can make things happy for everybody, but Satan wants to be in control just so he can be in control. Just so he can be the big shot and say, look, I told you what to do and you did it, and it makes me feel good, right? So you get that right from Isaiah 14, 12 through 14. So you have abundance of laws in a dictatorship system, controlling every aspect of life. God's law, on the other hand, God's laws are few. But, well made, right? Very few laws, but well made. They're good laws, but they're few. Think about it. How many laws in the Ten Commandments?
10.
Right? 10. It's very simple. God keeps it simple. Just boom. There is, I often used to say that I wish that God would just make a list of every action that I do in my life and just tell me every little detail so I don't have to wonder whether or not I'm doing God's will, right? Am I the only one who's ever thought that, right? So God, just tell me. But you know what? He doesn't want to do that. Why? He doesn't want robots. He wants us to learn good judgment. He wants us to do things because we choose to. He wants us to follow him because we choose to. Not because it's just, okay, God told me to do this, like a robot, right? So his laws are few and well made out. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, God is so oppressive. And God is so, controlling, this, that, and the other. But when you want to look at the amount of laws that God has, right?
Amen. That's right.
You look at the Bible, it's not that big of a book, really. Go to a legal library sometime. You want to see an abundance of laws,
Yeah,
right?
you ain't kidding.
Rows and rows and rows of fat,
Thick.
thick,
Law book.
every penal code you could think, just boom, 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 every little detail, right? Who's the one that's really controlling? Is it God or is it man? Right? God is not that controlling. You look at every law in the Old Testament, and really, we read through some of these laws in Exodus and Leviticus, and oh, this is so detailed. But really, he's going to tell you how to make the sanctuary. It's fairly specific detail. It's not even that specific. And, basic rules on how to run the country, and boom, it's over in a couple books, just a few chapters. It doesn't take very long. Whereas, you go to most any modern country today, and you have rows and rows of long, detailed laws. So, God's laws are few, but well made. Whereas in dictatorship, you want an abundance of laws.
I was
Go ahead.
just gonna say, how you said God's laws are few and they're well made. Every now and then they'll pop up with ridiculous laws that are on the books.
Yeah, we could talk about
It
that.
just, tells you how foolish man is.
Okay.
They're like, you can't fish from the back of a giraffe off a bridge in Ohio.
Yeah, exactly, right? There's laws like that.
They're
So,
still on the books.
The example of a well-intentioned, but it just, this kind of detailed abundance laws. The state of California have just recently made this new law that a waiter or waitress, have you heard this?
Straws.
Cannot offer a straw to a patron, right? If the patron asks, that's okay. But if the waiter or waitress offers, you can get $1,000 fine and up to
What?
6 months in jail.
That's polite though.
That is ridiculous.
And now this is California, right? And this is a state that is not the most godly state, right? And so this idea of these people who say, oh, well, God is so controlling, but you better not offer a straw or we're gonna, right? Who's the controlling one?
Yeah, they end up
Right?
in jail. What are you in for? Oh, I offered somebody a straw.
That's a really good point.
Look at it's just ridiculous. Who is the controlling one?
And that's
Who
what
is
I was
it?
trying to say was how, they've got all these rows and rows of laws
Exactly.
and they're
Still in force.
and they're
Yeah.
foolish laws, like you can't peel an
Here's one
orange in a
really cute.
hotel room and
Yeah.
wherever,
Yeah.
and it's
There's-
still on the
yeah.
books.
Go ahead.
Here's one real cute, I just want to show, but
Yeah.
this is one that we looked up, and it's still on the books as of today. This goes back into the early, 1900s,
Yeah.
1800s,
Yeah.
late 1800s. The horseless carriage.
Oh.
When the horseless carriage would come up next to, and you had horse-drawn carriages going by and stuff like that, that horseless carriage, which is now an automobile,
Uh-huh.
had to turn off to the side. You had to dismantle that complete car
Get out.
until they passed. Then you could
Dismantle
dismantle it. After
That's the
everybody's
awful
gone
slow
by, you
horses.
could go, that's still on the books.
Wow.
Wait, what do you mean dismantle? I think the whole car part?
You had
Yeah.
to
What?
disassemble the automobile,
Basically make it so we
let the
can't
horses
run.
and everything in their carriages go by.
That's an awful slow horse.
Wait,
there.
not just stop it, not just turn it off?
No.
That goes back into the late
And so my
1890s,
point was saying,
1890s.
God's laws are
The
well
horseless
made,
carriage,
man's
Yeah.
laws
which
are
is now an
pretty
automobile.
foolish.
You guys get the idea, right?
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Wait, are they still in force though?
Yeah, obviously not.
Yeah.
Obviously
No,
not,
they
but they're
don't
still
do
on
it.
the books.
It's still in the books,
Yeah,
it was
be
never,
careful,
it was
right?
never disratified.
So this,
But it's fine.
that's a good example, and it kind of leads you to the idea
Isn't that
of
ridiculous?
the Pharisees.
I know. Yeah.
My pen.
Yeah, the black one and that's not working.
Black one's not working?
Watch.
Yeah. Where's Mello when I need her? She's always got a teacher with the pen in her pocket. Let's see here. There we go, green. Okay. The Pharisees. You guys remember the Pharisees, right?
Yeah.
They were like this.
Yeah.
Abundance of laws, right? Every little detail of life. And Jesus ignored all those little extra laws, right? All those man-made laws. You gotta wash your hands before you do that. All this stuff. Where's that in the Bible? Okay. So the Pharisees and Rome is the Roman Catholic Church, I mean. Rome is very similar in these detailed rules, right? But then throwing obvious things in the Bible out the window.
Yeah.
The same thing, you find the same thing in countries that have fascism, which is just a form of socialism. You find these same kinds of things. Very detailed laws, specific, trying to control every aspect of people's lives. You think of places like, East Germany, right?
Or communism?
What was it, West Berlin, or, the communist and socialist
So
countries,
like
right?
North Korea.
Exactly. In
Yeah.
North Korea, perfect example, thank you. You cannot have the haircut that the dictator
Yeah.
has.
What?
That's
Yeah,
illegal to have his
yeah.
haircut, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Abundance of laws for every detail of life. That's what happens in these types of countries.
Who would
Yeah.
want to have a
Right?
haircut like he does?
Well, I was really thinking about it.
It's actually a very nice law. Very nice. You don't have to have that haircut. Okay, anyway. So, Bible religion, and the principles the principles that Israel and the US were founded on is more along these lines. It's supposed to be few laws that are well made. That's supposed to be the idea. This is the bad way. That's how you have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So, the basic principle here is a dictatorship versus somebody who is independent and self-sufficient. Citizens who are independent and self-sufficient, right? That is what dictatorships hate more than anything, is independence, right? They hate it. You can't
Because
control
they
you.
lose control.
We can't control you. We hate that, right? So here's a question for you. And you guys can go ahead and raise your hands if you agree with this. Who here likes to be micromanaged?
What's that?
Micromanaged?
Micromanaged.
Oh,
Anybody
I'd love
like
to be
micromanaged?
No, just kidding.
I can't stand that.
What's
You know,
that?
They have that.
It's like if you have a
Yes.
boss
What are you doing? You can't do that.
who
Every
comes,
little-
You're not doing,
every
you're not,
little
you're not
thing they
doing
have
that
to
right.
supervise. Like,
You're
and
not
they
doing
come
that
back like every 10 minutes, are you done? Okay, make sure you do this. So like, do it yourself.
They've done studies, and they found that people leave jobs. It was like 8 or 9 times out of 10, not because of the actual work, but because of their bosses.
Wow.
People quit bosses; they don't quit jobs, right? And usually the problem is something like that, micromanagement, right? Somebody telling you every little detail, like a little dictator telling you what to do, right? That's not the
A
spirit
little
of God.
dictator, you know.
Right? That's,
Yeah.
that's, that's our
Dictator.
fallen nature trying to control each other, right? Make each other into slaves. And that is against God's way of doing things. So, me, trying to think of a way to illustrate this. Here's my amazing, drawings here. In a republic, you want citizens that are independent. But you cannot be independent unless you are self-sufficient. Right? You can have all the political freedom in the world, but if somebody controls your pocketbook, right, you don't have any freedom at all, right? And so you've got to be self-sufficient in order to be independent, right? In a dictatorship, they want, and so you have, in a republic, you want everybody like this, or as many people as possible like this. That's how you want it. In a dictatorship, you want all of the people, I'll give you guys a simple. By the way, does anyone have, do you keep change on you, anyone? Does anyone have a dime? I'm just maybe by chance. You have a dime?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. Who's got a dime? You guys.
Oh, you got it
You
done.
got one?
Yeah.
Let me see. This is kind of like Jesus. Show me a.
Keep the change, sir.
Thank you, buddy.
Right? Right. Okay. On the back of a dime there, well, it's not as clear maybe as it used to be. There is a bundle on this.
Oh, arrows.
No, this is, well, they have that on the dollar bill as well, a bundle, right? But it's a bundle with the, this one has like a flame on it. But it's a symbol that's called a fashion.
Yeah, I know.
And you see it on basically a bundle of rods. Bundle of a bunch of rods, and they're bound together, right? You see that on the back of a dime. It's also at the House of Representatives. You know, at the back of the House of Representatives, there's two on either side of the podium, and they're called fasciae.
Oh, that thing.
It looks like a torch almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one does. But you can see it more clearly on the behind the on the sides of the House of Representatives. And what it is a bundle of rods. It's a symbol of taking a bunch of people and bringing them all together into one little bound thing, right? If you do that, if you can have everyone bundled up as one little group, then all it takes is one leader to control the whole group, right? You
Yeah.
can steer the whole thing together.
The president.
Whatever, right?
Oh, okay,
you know, a
yeah.
dictatorship or something, right? Usually, and you know, like Caesars or the
Yeah.
Pope, right? That would
Yeah.
be the idea. Boom.
What are
You're
the two
controlling.
branches on either side? The two branches of the government?
What are you talking about? At
On the dime.
On
The dime.
Oh, on the dime, I don't know all the details of that one, but I know if you look at the back of the House of the U.S. Representatives, you'll see two fascia, one on either side. So,
Two branches of government.
this is everyone united together in one, right, and easily controlled, and this is people who are not independent, right, because obviously you're bound up all together, you're not independent, and you would have to take away their self-sufficiency in order to get to this. Does that make sense? Okay, it's just the best way I can just kind of give
Then
a
why
little
did they put that on
object
there?
lesson. Well, it's a recent development. Yeah, that's not the original idea. It's also the Lincoln Memorial. You look at the Lincoln
Yeah,
Memorial.
that's why I was trying to know it
under his
from.
hands- under his
Oh,
hands
yeah,
on
I
either
always
side.
thought they were just columns.
No, that's those.
Yeah, it's the-
They had a thing on the Today Show about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's interesting.
That's
Those are
kinda
just symbols
spooky.
though.
Yeah.
Okay, so what God originally designed for us, He originally put one man and one woman, right, on this planet. And what was Adam supposed to be like? Was he
God.
supposed to be
Adam's
like this
supposed to be
slave,
God.
right, robot, automaton?
No.
Or
No,
was he supposed to be this self-sufficient, kind of mature, God wanted him? Well, what did he say? He was to be made in the image of who?
God.
God.
The image of God. Do you think of God in these terms as some kind
No.
of robot that just goes along with everything else?
No.
Or do you think of God as
Missing one.
having good judgment, right? And being self-sufficient and all these things? Adam was supposed to be like this,
Yes.
right? And the idea was free association. You would obey God because you choose to, right?
Chose to.
Yeah.
He does not want forced obedience.
Yeah.
He doesn't want robots, right? He wants you to do it because you love him,
Come on.
right? And the same, he wants us to do the same thing with each other. Right?
Amen.
We are not supposed to be dictators over each other. Satan is a dictator himself, and so he wants to create this on the planet as well, so that he can control it and he can control all of us.
And
Does
it's
that make sense?
interesting, the name of it, fasci, fascist.
That's where the word fascism comes from. That's literally where the word comes from, is from the old Roman word for fascii. Okay, so a republic must have citizens. Well, let me give you a list here. In order to have a republic, it is not possible to have a republic unless you have a certain type of citizens. And this was the original idea. Sorry. And forgive me, again, we're not going through a lot of the Bible verses tonight. We did that on previous nights, but I can give you guys the notes if you like. You must have citizens that are moral. You have to have a moral citizenry. It's not possible to have one. In fact, you read our founding fathers and they talk about how, our system of government was designed to govern a moral people, and it is fully inadequate to, it's almost a quote, fully inadequate to quote for any other type of people. If the people aren't moral, you cannot have a republic. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's true, I agree.
It's not
That's a
possible.
good point. It's a good point, because I wouldn't have thought that originally.
And our founding fathers knew that. You have to have a moral citizenry,
Moral.
or you cannot have a republic. The other one is they have to be educated. You can't have independent people who can't think for themselves. They have to be educated, right? They also must be self-sufficient. And we're talking economically self-sufficient. Because again, you can give people all the freedoms in the world, but if you control their pocketbooks, they don't have any freedom at all, right? If a man can't control what he eats, if you have control over his food supply and all that kind of stuff, then he's not independent, no matter what the laws say, right? So they have to be self-sufficient, educated, and moral.
And moral standard.
That's how you have a republic. So, if you want to turn a country that's a republic into a dictatorship, it's very simple. You make the citizenry not these things, right? You attack morality in society.
Look at that.
You attack the educational system and make them into just, mindless robots instead of true education, right? So they can actually think for themselves. And you make them, instead of self-sufficient, you make them dependent, right? Because if someone depends on you, you control them, right?
Amen.
That's how you do it. It's fairly simple, okay? So, go ahead, question.
I'm confused, when you said to have a republic, you have to have morality, but it's impossible to have morality?
No, I didn't say it's impossible.
Okay, I'm.
You have to have a moral, the people need to be generally moral in order to have a
Okay.
republic. Yeah.
Okay, I got confused, okay.
If the people are immoral,
What I did with my.
if a republic can't last. Because in a republic, the idea is that people are going to behave correctly to each other, right? Because they have that internal motivation. It's not a Bible verse, but it's a really good, in the movie about Moses,
Yeah.
the more recent one, I think it was like done in the 90s or early 2000s, we have those videos.
Not the.
The one with Ben Kingsley,
Okay.
right? That's the Ben Kingsley one, right? Yeah. There's a scene where Moses is talking to Jethro, his father-in-law, and his father-in-law it's the scene where Moses is doing all the judging, and his father-in-law comes to him and says, this is not a good plan, you're gonna wear yourself out, right? He says, you need to have it so that you have all these other leaders. You need to make other leaders and make more people who are like this, right? And have as many of those people as possible that are good leaders, right?
Delegating.
Delegate, exactly, instead of just one man. And he tells them something, he says, what's the goal of all this? The goal is to have it so that the people obey God's law because they want to, not because they're being forced. Now that's not a Bible verse, but the principle is that, right? The law is supposed to be on our hearts, right? So that's the idea is you have to have a citizenry like that is moral from the inside out. If they aren't, and they're constantly trying to get each other and all that, then you have to make more laws to control an immoral people. Does that make sense? If the more moral you are, the less laws you need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and the more immoral, the more details you need to control those corrupt people. Does that make sense?
So
Go
the
ahead.
morality in this country has obviously gone down the tube.
And with it, more laws have abounded. Morality's gone down and the
So-
laws have been
So
multiplied.
when a
Republicans
moral country
Must.
turns,
Most what?
is
Citizens.
losing its morality, pretty
Oh,
soon it'll
sorry,
be
that's a
anarchy.
most.
right?
Exactly, and so you
I'm
have
not
to have a
wearing my
powerful
glasses.
state come in.
Well, I see
Okay,
it.
so you
I
have to
mean,
have a
ST
dictatorship.
citizens.
Yeah.
It's like this, the
Must.
more moral, the less laws you need, the more
Right,
freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
The less morality, the more you need a dictatorship.
Ah.
Stealing and killing.
Exactly. So you want to turn a republic into a dictatorship? Attack morality.
And it's all
Which is what they're
justified.
doing.
And then it becomes justified. It's like, look at all these messed up things happening. We need more laws, right? And then you turn it into a dictatorship. You got a question, Matthew?
Yo, what does that say after a republic?
Republic?
Must.
Yeah, you must have citizens that are these things. So,
Must have citizens.
must have citizens that are all these things in order to have a republic. Sorry.
A good function.
Yeah, functioning republic. Yeah, functioning republic.
I was reading in the newspaper, I think it was in the newspaper or on the internet, they're saying that Christians are being more attacked, or Christians are being attacked now more than ever. And
Yeah.
that's undermining the morality.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have laws against straws, but then you can put anything you want on TV and on the airways and all these things.
Yeah.
Any immoral thing you want, but then you got a law against straws. I mean, it's
Which is,
ridiculous.
and the whole thing about showing anything on TV or the internet, if you cry out against it, it's, well, it's my freedom of speech. They're misusing that.
It wasn't like that just 20 years ago or something.
No.
It was not like that.
It was never like that when I was growing up. We had the censorship.
Yeah, you had some basic morality, and if you enforce that, then you don't need to enforce all these other detailed laws, right? So anyway, okay. So here's what you have to have a republic. Let me give you guys another principle here that you may not have ever noticed before, and this is amazing. In the U.S. system, the way it was founded, USA Constitution, right? What you had was that government's powers you could say government's freedoms were limited. It's interesting to read the Constitution that way, because it's all there, but unless somebody points it out to you, you may not, oh, I didn't even notice that. When you read the Constitution, it is designed, it's basically a document that says government can only do this, and it limits, it boxes government in, right? That's exactly how it's written. Read the Bill of Rights, right? Congress shall make no law establishing a religion and prohibiting the free exercise thereof, right? So it's government's limited, right? What about the Second Amendment? What was that? The right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed, right? It's limiting government. That is how the US Constitution is written. It's saying government can't do this, it can't do this, it can't do this, right? And so government's freedoms are limited, and therefore individual freedoms are expanded. Does that make sense? Individual freedom expanded. So the people get more freedoms, the government gets limited and smaller, right? In a dictatorship, in a socialist country, in a fascist country, you have the exact opposite. You have, so here I'll just write dictatorship, but you could be talking about the Roman system, the Roman Catholic system. You could be talking about any fascist country, socialist countries. This is how they work. Instead of government being limited, you have the people's freedoms are limited. And government is expanded. You see the difference? Right?
Yeah.
So you've got to, if you want to turn the USA into this, you've got to switch these two, right? You've got to make it so that government gets expanded, their power gets expanded, and people's freedoms get limited. That's what you've got to do, right? In addition to attacking all these things, right?
Which is what happened during the Russian Revolution, too.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Did you realize that the Soviet Union, that there was a constitution written for the Soviet Union? And that in its form, in the way it was written, in many ways it was almost identical to the US Constitution. But what they did is they created a republic in form. What did the USSR stand for?
United
Socialists, something like
Soviet
that.
Republic.
Republic. Right? What's China's official government name?
Republic of China.
PRC, right? People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
They love that name, right?
So freedom, so free.
It sounds great. It sounds like it's a republic in form, in name only, right? But in actual practice, what was the Soviet Union like?
It was terrible.
It was a brutal dictatorship, right? So how did they do that? That shows you that you can leave the Constitution alone and find ways to morph the country, because the Soviet Union had a constitution that was very similar to ours, but from the very beginning it was a country that's very different, because they did these things, basically. They switched this to that. Let me show you guys how that works. Are you guys following this so far?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Rome wants a dictatorship, right? Because the Pope wants to be king of the world. So if he has a dictatorship, all he has to do is step in and control it, and now he's king of the world, right? So he always wants the government to have more and more and more power, right? That's the Roman system in a nutshell, the political system.
Because then they can control the
Then they control
people,
it.
and they can control what the people read and what they
And
see.
Satan, therefore, controlling Rome, can control the people and be the dictator of the world, right?
And that still happens today?
That is what we're going towards. So if you guys get a chance, I mean, this book is way worth its weight in gold. I mean, this
Which book is that?
Ecclesiastical
Megalomania.
Megalomania.
That's right.
And I'm going to give a few quotes from this
Take a
tonight.
photo of that.
Yes, this is by John Robbins. It's the economic and political thought of the Roman Catholic Church. We don't have time to, obviously read as many things as I'd like to share with you from this book,
Yeah.
because we
When
could
was
just.
that published?
This was published some time ago. I've had a copy of this for years. 2006,
Okay.
John Robbins. So I'm gonna give you guys some quotes on limiting individual freedoms, because this is what you wanna do, right? You wanna turn republic into the beast, you expand government power, and you limit individual power. So I'm gonna give you some quotes on limiting individual power from the Catholic Church.
So that's
Right?
the dictatorship.
How to get a dictatorship, exactly. This is from the Catholic Church, and these are quotes. Most of these quotes come from after the USA was established, and the Catholic Church commenting on all these new freedoms, right?
Interesting.
And how they didn't agree with the
Wow.
U.S. system, right? They don't talk like that anymore, but back then they were very more open and honest about it. All right, here, let's see. Okay, here's a quote. This is from Leo the 13th, Pope Leo the 13th, right? So we're not quoting from some, backbencher, just, oh, here's a Catholic dude once said this. No, this is the Pope speaking, right? This is fairly official, right? This is from his encyclical Immortali Dei, or Immortal God. Leo the 13th wrote, on the question of separation of church and state, and he quotes from Gregory the 16th. And he says this, it is clear that these men, this is talking about church and state being separate, that these men who yearn for a shameless liberty live in dread of an agreement which has always been fraught with good and advantageous alike to sacred and civil interests. So church and state being united, he's saying you want this liberty from something that's great, basically. Does that make sense? Then he says this. This is on liberty of conscience. Another liberty is widely advocated, namely liberty of conscience. If by this it means that everyone may, as he chooses, worship God or not, it is sufficiently refuted by the arguments already adduced. So he's refuted the idea that everyone may, as he chooses, worship God or not. He's already refuted that idea. Liberty of conscience.
Yes.
So that would be attacking individual liberties, right? Your idea to liberty of conscience, to believe what you want, said no, we've refuted that.
Wow.
Here's another quote. Let us examine that liberty in individuals which is so supposed to the virtue of religion, namely the liberty of worship, as it is called. Liberty of worship, right? That's the topic. Freedom of religion, believe what you want to, right? That's the idea. He says this, justice therefore forbids, and reason itself forbids, the state to be godless, or to adopt a line of action that would end in godlessness, namely to treat the various religions, as they call them, alike, and to bestow upon them promiscuously equal rights and privileges. Yeah, I know it's kind of lawyery language, but can you follow that? Let me read that last line again. Justice therefore forbids, and reason itself forbids, to treat the various religions alike, and bestow upon them promiscuously equal rights and privileges.
What does it mean by permissive?
Yeah.
He's trying to say it's a bad thing. But the idea is justice and reason forbid treating all the religions equally. And he's saying that in the context of liberty of worship, right?
Yeah.
So justice itself and reason forbids that all the religions should be treated equally and you should have freedom to believe what you want.
Wow.
That's ridiculous according to this Pope.
And what year was
I was gonna say that.
This is from, that last quote was from Libertas Praetorianis, I can't even remember, it's 1888.
okay,
It
okay.
was written in 1888, I don't know, it's Leo the 13th.
Leo
Are
the
these
13th,
all
yeah.
those quotes after the US was established?
Oh yeah, 1888,
Okay.
yeah, 1888.
Well, no, I know that, but I
Previous
meant
one
the other
was-
quotes.
The other one was 1885.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't read this whole one here, but I'll read a little bit from it. This is on freedom of speech. So he's already said that that freedom of religion,
No.
no, bad idea. You shouldn't have that. The church and state should be united, and we should tell you what you can worship, right? Here's one on freedom of speech. We must now consider briefly liberty of speech and liberty of the press. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. It is hardly necessary to say that there can be no such right as this.
Oh, interesting.
Can you believe that? For right is a moral power which it is absurd to suppose that nature has accorded indifferently to truth and falsehood, to justice and injustice. Men have a right freely and prudently to propagate throughout the state what things soever are true and honorable, so that as many as possible may possess them. But lying opinions, than which no mental plague is greater, and vices which corrupt the heart and moral life should be diligently repressed by public authority, lest they insidiously work the ruin of the state.
Oh
You
my
follow that?
gosh.
Wow.
In other words, there shouldn't be, you can't say what you want.
No,
What?
you can say the truth, quote unquote, as much as you want, but lying opinions.
What does that mean, lying opinions?
What does it mean? Well, the Pope tells you what it means, right? Once you get to say only,
You have no opinion. You were told what your opinion is going to be.
Oh,
Once-
interesting.
once you have
Okay.
the idea that only truth can be spread, right?
Yeah.
And falsehoods cannot be spread, well, question, who decides what's true and what's false? Well, the government does,
Yeah.
and the
Oh
moral
my
authorities tell
gosh.
the government what is true and what is false.
That's
And
so
those
bad.
things, the false
That is
things should be
terrible.
diligently repressed by public authority, right?
Oh, in other words, if you say something that
It's against.
the government doesn't like,
Yeah.
It
they'll
should be shut down.
shut, oh my
Don't let it,
God.
don't
That is
repress it by the
total
state.
communism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where is this being seen a lot too? And that
Socialist
is
countries.
in our major colleges.
It's
Yes.
Our
happening-
major colleges
Yes.
is a cesspool of
Exactly.
just this right
That's
here.
what's going on in America
And-
today.
Is-
Yeah, you think that we have the right to speak out and say like
Yeah.
that, or to say,
What do?
let me
right?
tell you, brother,
Yeah.
you're
You go
gonna
after
be
the
attacked.
education,
Amen.
and you have these young people in colleges today saying, no, I don't believe in freedom to say whatever you want. No, if you offend me, then you can't say it, and I get to shut you down. Because it
Exactly.
offends me, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Well, look
Rome.
at-
That
look
is
at-
Rome working
and
for
look at
professors.
These
Berkeley.
professors though, it's coming out of these
I'll give you
professors,
quotes.
it's unbelievable.
I will give you quotes from this book where they say that the Catholic Church is working through the social studies, social
Oh.
sciences,
Amen,
to change the country.
Well,
amen.
look
The
at
quotes are right
Berkeley.
here.
Berkeley,
Or I call it
Absolutely.
Berserkly.
the king of
Honey,
them all.
let me finish.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, Berkeley,
Ah.
which was the birth of freedom of speech.
That's right.
It's so sad.
Every
60s.
time they
So
want
sad.
that one guy to come and talk, they have riots and
Riots.
riots. So freedom
Yeah.
of speech does not exist.
They have that one guy, that anti-Nazi guy.
Yeah, well, the guy who's,
And that was really the birth of it in the
Yeah, so they're
1960s.
contradicting themselves.
The day before they went to the college and asked the students, what did you think of the State of the Union?
Oh, yeah, I
address?"
saw that.
Oh,
And they're,
yes.
oh my,
No,
it was horrible.
It was 5 days
These-
before.
Oh, was it 5 days?
It was 5 days before.
Yeah, these,
Yeah,
they
it's-
didn't
yeah.
even know it hadn't happened yet. They were commenting on how
I know,
horrible
I
it
know.
was and what
I know.
figures Trump would say that, he's such a
Amen.
this.
That's
and-
right.
That's our
They
education.
have a
That's our education.
I was
preconceived
confused. I
notion.
told my husband, I go, did it happen? And I missed it.
Well,
And you
even
know
when
what? You don't have to agree with either side or the other to say that's really a problem in our educational
A
system, right?
problem.
That, yeah, I mean,
Well,
That's
even
okay.
when you watch the State
Yeah,
of
if
the
they
Union
didn't like it,
address,
fine, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
care.
but have
Be-
an educated response, right?
Exactly, you're just a robot.
well, look at those
They're just
people that were.
Let's,
Oh, sorry.
let's keep going. Just for the sake of time, so I don't keep you guys here all night. Because we
No,
could
we
go
gotta-
on,
Discussion,
Let's
though.
spend the night here.
right? Well, you guys are seeing, right? It's already
Yes.
happening.
You
We're already
betcha.
going there, right? Because the Catholic Church says, no, you don't have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom to publish whatever you want. And you guys immediately say, I see it happening here today.
Oh.
What's going on the social media sites?
Yes.
Can you say anything you want on
Yeah.
social media?
No.
They have these new, like, truth police going on Facebook
That's
and,
right.
and Twitter. And if they don't like you, they'll just, boom, delete your, I had a situation.
And it's gonna get worse,
I
too.
put up a political cartoon, right? It was by a guy who's very well known, and does, nationally syndicated, political cartoonist. And what it was a picture of, or a drawing of one of the Hitler's brown shirts, The brown shirts in Hitler's day.
Oh, yeah, the SA.
We talk about what happened with our colleges today, right? If you don't like it, we just riot and we'll beat you up and we'll threaten you.
Ernest Rome.
We'll shut you down. That's exactly what they did in Hitler's day.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they did. Political opponents, they would go to the opposing opponents' rallies. They would cause trouble. They would come with clubs. They would shut them down. You're not allowed to speak. And eventually people got intimidated and they stopped speaking, right? And then Hitler was able to rise to power because people shut up, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is happening today with groups like Antifa, right? They're going and doing the same thing. This political cartoon had a drawing of one of Hitler's brown shirts, and he's beating up somebody, and the person has truth written on him, right? So he's beating up the truth. And then you have another one of Antifa doing the same thing, right? And it was making the comparison, right? It's a nationally publicated cartoon that's in all kinds of newspapers. Put it on Facebook and they took it down.
What?
And the Facebook police told me that this violates our rules. You can't say, wait, for speaking against Antifa? Like, who is being offended here? Are you defending the brown shirts, the Hitler's brown shirts, or Antifa?
Yeah.
Which one are you defending? And this is true. This is reality. This is what's happening today. Can't say it, right?
And yet they're allowed to put up things of murders and all
Yeah.
sorts of
All
bad
kinds of
things.
vice, sure, no problem, right?
And that's
So-
what you notice on a lot of news. All it is bad stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and they get away with that. And it's like, where's all the good stuff now? You know, there's a
So
lot of good
freedom
things.
of speech is one of the things that the Catholic Church opposes. Freedom of religion, we've seen that. The quotes are right there, and I could give you guys more quotes, but they're right there. Freedom of the press, no, they're not okay with that. How about private property?
Oh,
How about
yeah,
private
no,
property?
it all belongs to the state.
What does the Catholic Church say about private property? It's not an opinion of mine. Let me read you a quote. This is from the encyclical, again, this is Leo XIII, Rerum Novarum. He says, to own goods privately, as we saw above. Now again, keep in mind the context here. We're talking individual freedoms. You want to limit those and expand, limit the people's freedoms and expand government. So one of the freedoms is, we looked at freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. What about private property? Here's a quote. To own goods privately, as we saw above, is a right natural to man. And to exercise this right, especially in life and society, is not only lawful, but also clearly necessary. So far sounds good, right? There's a but. But if the question be asked, how ought man to use his possessions? The Church replies without hesitation. As to this point, man ought not regard external goods as his own, but as common.
That's the whole thing about communism.
Well, fascism in particular was
Right.
very good at this. Private property was left legally. You had right to your property, but physically, what you could do with it was controlled, right?
This is exactly,
So it gave you the illusion of freedom while having a dictatorship.
Yeah.
this is exactly what
That was
happened to my
fascism.
grandparents. Because my parents were born in Europe. And my dad was born in Prague and my mom was in Slovakia. Well, my grandparents owned a small farm. And when the communists took over, they seized that property and took it away.
Yep.
And my parents told me that communism it sounds good to begin with, because they were saying, oh, if we all work together, everything belongs to everybody. In
Yep.
other words, you have no private property. It's
Exactly.
all taken away from you, and
Exactly.
you work for the state.
Yep, exactly. That's the idea, and that's what happened in fascist Germany, and that's the idea of the Catholic Church, is that you give people you have your private property, but we get to tell you what to do with it.
Yeah.
So is that really, do you own it? No. And that's the idea, that's what they're trying to bring in more in the US, where you still own stuff, but you can't do whatever you want with it. We get to tell you what to do with it.
That's the whole sly thing
That's the
about
I mean,
socialism is,
Exactly.
oh yeah,
So are you gonna
it's
give us some
yours, but we
examples
tell you
of
what
the
to
USA?
plan.
Let me give you, I'll give you an example. So, The Adventist Church, we own a nice giant piece of property in Soquel called the Soquel Campgrounds. We had camp meeting there. You remember that?
Yeah,
this
awesome.
summer we have camp meeting every summer. We only have camp meeting in the summer, and we only have it for a very small amount of time. Do you know why?
Because the
Because
government.
the city of Soquel tells us we can only use our giant acreage of property for a certain time of the year.
That's
For
huge,
very
too.
specific things. Right? So we cannot do what we, some of the cell phone companies came to us because you can't get, you go to these, it's out in the mountains and you can't get any cell phone reception there.
Yeah.
You go there, just forget about it, right?
Because you don't really need cell phones there.
Well, hopefully, but
Yeah.
for emergencies, it'd be nice, right? Some
Yeah.
of the cell phone companies came to us and said, hey, you know, we can put a tower right here on your property and give you guys reception. And actually, they would pay the church to do that, right? And lease that little square of land to put your tower there. City said no. So we own it, but we can only
But you
use it
can't-
for this like 10 days of the year, right? And we can't do what we want on it. Like, do we really own it?
So you don't really know.
That's exactly what
So
happened in
why
Natchez
can you
Germany.
only use it in the summer? What was their?
The city has decided we don't want you guys, well,
City
I'm
has
sure there's
decided.
some, you know, SoCal and the Santa Cruz area, there's a little bit of animosity toward churches, right? A little bit.
Oh, yeah, well, when
Sounds
you
like
think about Santa Cruz, the whole hippie movement and
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
bit, yeah.
And we could go into the history of the hippie movement and the Jesuits, and how that was a Jesuit movement.
The Jesuits, that's what I'd like to.
That was a Jesuit movement in the US.
Wow.
Maybe we'll look at that another night.
Yeah. that'd be
Okay,
cool.
well, I kind of want to get to a couple more of these quotes, so I don't keep you guys up here all night. So we've
This is
seen,
interesting.
Yeah.
we limit people's freedoms, right? We saw that. And I gave you guys a few examples: liberty of speech, liberty of the press, freedom of religion, private property. You limit all that. You could talk about gun laws, right? I know that's kind of a sensitive topic nowadays, but look at any socialist country, and what do they do in socialist countries? Take away the individual guns, because now you're no longer self-sufficient and independent, right? So Venezuela, they confiscated all the guns. Hitler confiscated all the guns, right? But then in Venezuela, he gave, the dictator gave guns to all of
Soldiers.
his people on his side, right? So one side has guns and the other doesn't. That's how you set up a dictatorship, right?
Yeah.
It's fairly simple, and they do it for the public good, whatever, but you limit people's freedoms. The next idea is you expand government. Now, how do you do that? This one's tricky. How do you expand the power of government? Well, the Bill of Rights was specifically designed to limit government, right? It's the Bill of Rights, and it's individual rights that people have, right? The right that you can't, you know, the Fifth Amendment, you know, unlawful search and seizures. You have the right, you know, people say, I plead the Fifth. What does that mean?
Yeah,
They stayed quiet.
You have the right to not
not to incriminate
yourself,
themselves.
right? You can stay quiet. Do you know why that law was written? Think about it. Why would the founders even think of that? It's because of the Dark Ages. How did they get people, convict people of things in the Dark Ages?
They
You would
got
torture them until they
torture
confess to
them, that's
whatever
right.
you want, right?
inquisitions and stuff.
And so now we have laws against self-incrimination. Back then, hey, I don't like this guy. I want him punished. We'll just torture him until he confesses to something, right? To make it stop.
Yeah, confess of something, yeah.
Horrible, horrible stuff. But we can go into that more another night. But the idea is, those were the Bill of Rights. So how do you expand government? We already saw they want to limit people's rights. How do you expand government? Well, what you do is you come up with new rights. New rights. Let me give you guys a list of some of the rights according to the Catholic Church. And this is very sly.
Yeah.
Because when you think about these rights intelligently, if the government has if people are guaranteed these rights, then what you're really doing is empowering the government to have the power to give those things. And so you're just expanding the power of government. So here's a list of some of these rights. Page 85 from Ecclesiastical Megalomania. The right of freely founding unions for working people. the right to culture, the right to immigrate, the right to immigrate, the right to food, the right to clothing, the right to rest, the right to medical care, the right to a just wage, the right to life, the right to safe environment, the right to personal security of workers, the right to family life, the right to use of all goods, to common use of all goods, right to work, right to a pension, right to insurance for old age, right of association, right of security, I mean, just everything, right? No pun intended, right? But if you have a right to, you have a right to a job, and you have a right to fair wages, right? How do you make that happen? You have to have government control over the jobs and the wages and so forth, right? That's the only way to make that happen, right? So what you're telling people is we want to give you rights. In reality, what you're doing is you're expanding the power of government to enforce those things to happen. But once you've expanded the government to enforce those things to happen, to have the power, it's not necessarily guaranteed that it's ever going to happen, but we've got the power, right? And so you have those exact same things were in the Soviet Constitution. You had a right to this, this, that, and the other, but you didn't actually get those things, but the government had the power to do it, right?
It's just the government never did it.
They don't, because that wasn't the point. The point was to get the power.
Right.
And in order to get the people to let us, government, have the power,
lured
we
them.
tell you, we're going to give you the right to this, this, that, and the other. We're going to take care of everything in your life.
Which they
So this
basically didn't
self-sufficiency,
do.
out the window. You make them dependent, right?
Yeah.
And so you say, oh, I guarantee you this, that, and the other. And by
Then you just-
doing that, you trick people into letting the government have all the power.
So then the government just never fulfills that.
They don't have to. I mean,
Right.
even if they did, you would just be completely dependent, right? And yeah, you guys see how that trick works?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just a couple more quotes and we'll be done here. How did they go about doing this in America? How did they bring these things about? This is gonna blow your mind. Here we go. This is from Leo the 13th again. First and foremost, it is the duty of all Catholics. This is from the chapter Strategy for Subverting a Republic. How do you get these laws into power in a republic? First, quote, first and foremost, it is the duty of all Catholics worthy of the name to make use of popular institutions. What is popular? That means government.
Yeah.
A popular institution. That doesn't mean popular like, oh, everyone likes it. It means the ones that have to do with the public. That's
Would
what
that also be like universities?
yeah.
Schools?
But as you read along, you'll see it's talking about government. Make use of popular institutions so far as can honestly be done for the advancement of truth and righteousness, to strive that liberty of action shall not transgress the bounds marked out by nature and the law of God, to endeavor to bring back all civil society to the pattern and form of Christianity which we have described.
We.
In other words, all Catholics, it is your duty to go into government and make the state enforce what we think society should look like.
Unbelievable.
That is what he said in very legal terms, but that is what
No
he
wonder
said.
that book's called Megalomania.
Ecclesiastical megalomania.
Well,
Okay.
the thing is, like, in the Supreme Court judges, they're all Catholics except for one now.
The majority are Catholic now, yeah.
Really?
That's crazy.
Before it used to be majority Protestant.
All Protestants.
Yes.
Now it's all Catholic.
Now it's
I
all,
think it's like 8-1, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's like, they're like, oh, okay, here we go. So are they doing what the Pope said, told them to do? To go into government
Yes.
and
Yes.
control it?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, absolutely. Okay, we're almost done here. This is from Pius XI, 1931. It prevailed upon the peoples to develop their social policy more intensely and on truer lines, and encourage the elite among Catholics to give such efficacious help. They speak so fancy.
Pious.
Yeah, I know.
Efficacious help Okay, the elite among the Catholics to give such efficacious help and assistance to rulers of the state, and that in legislative assemblies they were not infrequently the foremost advocates of new policy. What did he just say? He said that it's Catholics who are going into government and they're the ones proposing the laws. Let me read that again. It prevailed upon the peoples to develop their social policy more intensely and on truer lines, and encouraged the elite among Catholics to give help and assistance to rulers of the state, and that in legislative assemblies, that would be Congress, they were not infrequently the foremost advocates of new policy.
They were right there.
They were the ones pushing the laws.
Yeah.
Here's the key unless you wanna just wrap that sooner.
Okay.
Or wrap it right now.
Yeah,
He's thinking right now.
like 2 quotes, but I can
Never
do it.
mind.
Yeah, I can. I think I know it's.
You don't worry about don't worry about it, because they're gonna have to open it tomorrow morning anyway
Okay.
for worship.
Okay.
It's not the church.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, see you, man.
Bye.
Okay, we got like 2 more quotes and we're done. Okay,
This is fascinating.
Yeah,
it's crazy stuff,
phenomenal,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
Okay, here's, how do you get these new laws done in America? Here's a quote, this is amazing. The religion of Roman Catholicism, the most significant in American politics, the ultimate swing vote. Catholics were at the heart of the New Deal coalition.
Yes.
Did you catch that?
Yeah,
At the
Catholics
heart.
were at the heart of the New Deal coalition. So how did the New Deal happen? How did FDR get that? And what was FDR's thing? You have a right to this, right to this, right to this, right to this, right? That is expand government power. Who advocated that? Well, we just read the Pope saying the Catholics were to go into the legislation and advance the new policies. And right here they're saying, yeah, we were at the heart of the New Deal. Okay,
it is
last
Catholic
quote.
responsibility
That is
Isn't that interesting?
scary.
to all the elite. of the
Isn't that
Catholic-
interesting?
How they're like crabgrass.
I was just saying, there's your crabgrass.
You know, infiltrating
Effect.
into government.
That's right.
Last quote. Pius XI wrote, okay, this is 1931, Quadragesimo Anno.
Is this Pius the 12th?
Pius XI. This
Oh,
is,
Pius.
this
Oh,
is
just before. That's right, okay.
1931. I'm not going to read this whole thing. Here we go. It is not surprising, therefore, that under the teaching, now this is getting into the educational system. It is not surprising, therefore, that under the teaching and guidance of the Church, many learned priests and laymen earnestly devoted themselves to the problem of elaborating social and economic science. So that would be social studies,
Studies.
economics, right? He's saying the priests are going into that, right? Under this guidance, blah, 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 was thus evolved a truly Christian social science, which continues to be fostered and enriched daily in the tireless labors of these picked men who have been named auxiliaries of the church. So they have their picked men working in the social sciences. The doctrine of rerum novarum, which we quoted before, the son, all the, you don't have private property and all these things, you have a right to all this stuff, began little by little to penetrate among those who, being outside Catholic unity, do not recognize the authority of the Church, and these Catholic principles of sociology gradually became part of the intellectual heritage of the whole human race. So in other words, Catholic teachings are being taught in social studies, even by people who aren't Catholic anymore, because the priests came in first and gave these ideas, and now Catholic principles are being taught in social
So
studies.
it's kind of like they went in and planted the seeds.
They started it, and now people who aren't even Catholic are repeating their ideas. You catch that? In the
Yes.
social studies. Thus too we rejoice that the Catholic truths proclaimed so vigorously by our illustrious predecessor, Leo XIII, are advanced and advocated not merely in non-Catholic books and journals, but frequently also in legislative assemblies and courts of justice. That's how you control a country. All right? That's how
Illustrious.
you turn this into this, right?
The Catholic Church is a megalomaniac.
Ecclesiastical megalomania, absolutely. I didn't even touch, this is tip of the iceberg stuff.
Can I
For the
mention
sake
something
of
also?
time, go ahead.
Real quick, this is gonna go back to the Second Amendment, where a lot of people really don't know the real reasons for the Second Amendment originally. You probably do. But the Second Amendment wasn't just the right to keep and bear arms for protection. It was to really protect the people against the dictatorship of the government going into
That was the
or
whole purpose.
becoming
That was the
a
whole purpose.
dictatorship.
No, it had very little to do with self-defense of the guy next door.
Absolutely.
It was
It was
almost
all
all
because-
about protecting people from government.
From government becoming a dictatorship.
That's exactly right.
Amen.
Absolutely right. That's the whole purpose of it. It wasn't for hunting. It was to
For
protect us from a
protection.
dictatorship.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, you do that.
No, absolutely,
But that's-
absolutely.
That's crazy, the Catholic Church, how can they put them, I mean, it's just all pride. They're
Yeah.
just one big
One
bubble of
system wants to
pride.
run the world.
Well,
Yeah. And you guys are seeing how it's happening today.
And you see all the shame and the bad things, like the priest being accused of molestation,
Yeah.
how they're sweeping that under the rug.
The immorality.
They just move the priests around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hello, does nothing inside of them tell them this is wrong?
Yeah. I
So
know.
you guys can now see, when you see what's happening in the US, you can see the country slowly getting transformed into this image of the beast, right? Again, I apologize tonight, we didn't have a lot of Bible
oh no,
verses.
this is
But that
wonderful.
was,
No,
we
this-
did that when we looked over the Republic and Israel and the founding
Yeah.
of the country.
This is a great
But this was only
conversation.
quotes from what the Catholic system,
Yeah.
what they say it should be like. And you could see, we're heading right down what exactly what they
Amen,
want.
that's
That's how
right.
And
Christ
that's a
comes before-
fulfillment of prophecy. The
That's what
Bible says we're gonna turn into. a
Christ comes
beast.
before it turns into the,
It's gonna happen, unfortunately.
Here's
Yeah,
that crab
yeah.
grass effect.
Fight it, we should, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I don't wanna keep you guys too late. Let's say a word of prayer. Somebody want to say a word of prayer for us?
That's wonderful.
Going back, Leah. Just say a quick prayer for us.
Loud.
She's- Nice and loud.